Hey everybody, welcome to PC Perspective. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I am Tom Petersen.
We are here today with a special live stream. We're going to talk about the GeForce GTX 960.
Raise the roof.
Well, okay. This is the graphics card just launched today, and you can see here, we actually have a demo system up and running. Even though the fans aren't spinning, that doesn't mean anything.
That is cool. Can you see the system? Oh, that's the system right there.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
And behind it are a collection of graphics cards. We have MSI, EVGA, and Asus. Those cards are all going to be given away today.
We're giving away 10 cards.
Giving away 10 GTX 960s during the stream. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the 960. We're going to talk about the technology inside of it. We're going to do a couple of demos. Then we're going to take questions.
That's my favorite part.
Right. And here's the key. We're going to give away prizes based on questions.
Absolutely. 10 questions coming from where?
Either the comment page on PCPer.com.
Okay.
Right. So if you're in the chat, or if you just go to PCPer.com and you look for the post titled, what is the actual title? PCPer Live GeForce GTX 960 live stream.
Nice.
If you leave a comment on there, you don't have to register anything. It can be anonymous. Leave a question.
You could win.
And if we like the question, we'll that means we have to do a minimum of 10 questions.
Yeah, that means we're going to be rolling the questions quick.
Okay. So we'll give that away, and then also through Twitter, we are. If you tweet at PCPer, we will be looking through those posts, those questions, and we'll take them like this person here. Right? What's that say? Oh, we didn't solve that problem.
Yeah, somebody's going to have to read the question.
Will Maxwell fully support DX12, or will it be partial support DX11.3? And how will DX12 impact GameWorks effects?
Well, that's two questions.
It is.
Now, did we say, first of all, the person who's picking the questions going up is Ken?
Right, so we're not responsible for selecting those questions.
If the question comes up, is that how you win? As long as we agree that's a good question.
If we agree that it's a good question, then
you win.
So let's save that question to the end. Can we keep that one back?
Yeah, because we're not going to say whether that one's won or not.
Correct.
Although that's
probably on the caliber of
question we're looking for. Right. Although it could be just funny. If it's a funny question, and Ken thinks it's funny, because you got to make it through the Ken hurdle.
That's true. Right? That's your first hurdle.
If Ken thinks it's funny and it comes on the screen and we think it's funny, then you could win.
Yeah, and not every question will win a prize, probably.
Nope.
And there will probably be people who say, I asked that question first, and I don't care.
Whatever Ken puts on the screen, that's
what we got to deal with. Yeah. So good luck and enjoy and get some information. So let's go ahead and talk about the product.
Cool.
We have the GTX 960. This is the third in your GTX 900 series products.
It is.
980, 970, 960.
Yep.
Do you want to run through?
Let me do a couple slides, and then I'll
do tech stuff.
Yeah, we'll do some slides and do some demos, and then we'll do some questions, right?
Okay.
So some slides really quick. I'll run through this relatively quickly. Actually, I'll run through it extremely quickly if I.
You need to put the focus on that.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go. These high-tech things.
I know.
Mouse. But anyway, obviously, as Ryan said, this is our third member of the 960 family. It's also, of course, based on Maxwell, and Maxwell is our most advanced GPU ever. It is being really well received by the market, primarily because it gives you great performance at very low power. So we're very excited about Maxwell. And we launched 4 main features with Maxwell, right? 4 main new technologies. First of all, it's 2x the power efficiency of Kepler, which means you're going to get, higher performance and lower power, so you can game, really quiet, no fans needed a lot of the time. We also introduced DSR and MFAA. DSR is dynamic super resolution, and that is a cool technology that allows you to render games much higher resolution than your screen and then scale it down. You've looked at that. I think it's pretty cool. It looks great with League of Legends and Dota and pretty much any other game where you have that performance headroom. MFAA, we're really focusing in on MFAA now. MFAA allows us to get AA that's almost the same as, say, 4x MSAA, but we can get it at roughly the performance of 2x MSAA. So we're continuing to make that technology better, and we made some big changes with GTX 960. Now MFAA is on pretty much with every game. There's about 3 games that are blacklisted, but if you're a DX10 or DX11 game and you support MSAA, now MFAA is going to be active.
Because when the first driver launched with the MFAA support, it only was like 15 games, 20 games.
Yeah, it was 20 games,
like
and it was much more controlled because we just got done with it. And we wanted to make sure people had a good experience and that it was heavily controlled. Now we're pretty confident. We've looked at many games, and we're going to turn it on. Of course, you can turn it on or off in the control panel, but we're also going to be delivering MFAA through GeForce Experience.
That was new.
That is right now.
Does that start with this driver that was released?
It starts very soon. I think it might be out. It was supposed to be out right now, but it might be just slightly out, like just barely next.
So basically, MFAA would be a setting. So if you use GeForce Experience to set your game settings, then MFAA would be an option that would be either enabled or disabled
based on the game,
on what you guys
your
decided.
GPU, your platform, the game, and it'll be on or off by default if you optimize, depending on our results.
But consumers will still be able to go into the control panel and change it if they want.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
or change it on a per game basis using GFE.
Absolutely, and you can change it on a per game basis, I believe, in a profile in the control panel.
Okay.
Okay. We also launched VXGI, which is one of our GameWorks modules. That's a real-time, sort of real-time ray tracing. It's not quite ray tracing, but it's the same idea. We make lighting look much better. And lastly, we launched VR Direct, which you're going to be hearing a lot more about as some of the sort of VR headsets get closer to production. So VR Direct is our way to make VR an even better experience, primarily by accelerating the response to the screen of head tracking. So I don't know if you've seen, did we do a demo of that live? Yeah, it's really, really cool. I think people are going to love it. All right. So that's a high-level view of Maxwell. Of course, it is built for DX12. You know, it's a full implementation of DX12, whatever that turns out to be when they launch it. We think that we've been working with them for a long time, and we expect Maxwell to be fully ready for DX12. You know, it does rasterized ordered views, which is very important for ordered transparencies, and a lot of these other commands are kind of important for voxelization. So when you get into it, DX12 does lower the CPU load for normal kind of gaming. Sure. But it's got some new features that are going to make gaming look even better. Now,
are these features DX features, or are they features like custom features you guys built for VXG?
These are DX features. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Actually, I will say there was some confusion recently after the Microsoft event talking about DX12, and that some cards, everybody has talked about, hey, DX12 is going to be backported to all these current GPUs, which is still the case. Yeah. But it is the new features of DirectX 12, like that, that require hardware changes.
Absolutely.
It will not be supported in, say, your own 780, 780
Correct.
Ti.
If it's a DX12 feature that can be backported, and of course Microsoft enables it to be backported, you know, who knows? But I think our GPUs are always going to be like DX10, DX11. Right. Maxwell is DX12.
Okay.
Now, when we launched Maxwell, which was just September, that's like, what, 3-4 weeks, it's like 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago now, we've had ridiculous success so far. We had 1.3 million gamers tune into our online event. So 1.3 million for a 24-hour period for us is a huge amount of people. So we're excited about that. We'll be doing more online activity. We've so far,
like this.
Yeah, like PC Perspective. So far, we've sold more than 1 million GPUs of 980s and 970s. So for those of you in the industry, that should tell you something. Those are really large numbers for us, and we're really excited to see it. And I think we've actually probably taken some significant share based on that. So that's very exciting. And because we've sold so many GPUs, we've actually had over 100 million hours played on Maxwell already. So people are buying the cards, they're enjoying them, they're playing them.
How do you know that? How do you gather that information?
Well, a lot of this is based from like the millions sold. We know how many GPUs we've sold to our partners, and we kind of get reports and things about how many GPUs have actually been sold out. Okay. So a lot of this information is based directly on, you know, we know what we sell. But it's also very, very true that there is monitoring as part of GeForce Experience, and that does give us additional feedback. Okay. Right. Yeah, so Maxwell's doing really, really well, which is why we're so excited today to be talking about 2015 and what's coming up, right? These are all showing new titles. So this is Witcher 3, War Thunder, Dying Light, Batman, this is Evolve, and that is Killing Floor 2. And all of these titles are coming with GameWorks in 2015. GameWorks, of course, is our technology that we put into games to make visual effects better and make them play better. And that kind of drives demand for high-performance games, which drives demand for GPU. So our strategy is to make games better and better and better using advanced technology, which drives more and more demand for GPU. And GameWorks is a big part of that. Okay. So GameWorks has been extended, and it's going to continue to get extended. So right now, if you just look at Unreal Engine 4, the base engine includes physics, cloth, and destruction. And you can think about those base functions as the CPU path runs on all GPUs, runs on all platforms, and they're using that to do what you have to do in a game engine, right? You have to have a simulation of the physical world. But what many people don't know is a lot of other technologies are now in a custom branch for Unreal Engine. So if you're a game developer and you're you're looking to, say, do a water game with battleships or whatever, you would want to use WaveWorks because you get much more realistic waves and much more realistic effects. But WaveWorks, Turbulence, ShadowWorks, Turf Effects, VXGI Flex, and Hairworks are now all part of UE4, especially in a custom branch. And again, this is our strategy of technology gets better and better and better on the GPU. We enable that through GameWorks. Our 300 designers go off to work with game guys, and then they build games, and everybody wins. That's our strategy.
Okay.
So far, so good. G-Sync is continuing to get better in 2014. There were a few key announcements.
2015?
I'm sorry, 2015. So a few key announcements in at CES, of course. Yep. Everybody saw this one with the Acer XB27 0HU.
XB270HU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
270HU is an easier way to say it.
It is, yeah.
G-Sync is now IPS on 144 hertz. So that's super cool. It's going to be available in February. I mean, last time I was here, people were asking about IPS. People were asking about 144 hertz.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of it in there.
So IPS is a great match.
Why didn't you bring that for us?
You know what? I've been traveling a lot, brother. I mean, imagine that it's right there off camera, okay? But yeah, I've seen it, you've seen it, we showed it to you in private suite, and it does look fantastic. That'll be available hopefully in February, like Acer says.
February is only like 10 days away.
I know.
Just saying.
Yeah, it looks really good. So another technology that got announced is why don't you say this one? This looks like an Asus ROG PG27AQ.
There you go. Look at you.
They don't like merge that 27 AC.
Right. No, I don't think so.
No, okay. It's a gaming monitor. This has been announced at CES as well. It's G-Sync IPS 4K.
Yep. I like it. It's got the same physical build quality, the same, what would you call it, ID?
Yep.
Industrial design as the ROG Swift that we have now that we really like.
Just a little bigger?
Just, I think the same size, it's just, now it's
4K.
a different panel. Yeah, different panel. So
I love it. I actually like their little base. And 4K with G-Sync makes a lot of sense because obviously, you're talking about frame rates that are now varying between, say, 40 and 60, even with a high-end card. And G-Sync is perfect in that wheelhouse. So very excited about that. And that brings us to today, which is the GeForce GTX 960. It's bringing Maxwell down to the sweet spot, right?
Okay.
And for us, when we say Maxwell sweet spot, we're talking about price point. At $199, the GTX 960 is an incredible value that people, I think, are going to love. Maxwell, all the Maxwell features down at a price point that's affordable for everybody. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the #1 GPU on Steam has just gotten upgraded, right? So if you kind of look across the history of GPUs, 460, 560, 660, and 760, these are the GPUs that we really sell a lot of. And it's the #1 on Steam. It's also the #1 GPU used for MOBA gaming. So folks that are playing League of Legends or Dota are going to be ready for an upgrade. And the most important thing for us is that a lot of these guys are using GPUs that's a little bit older. So it turns out that around 66% of people in this class are using a GPU that's more than 2 years old, actually more than 3 years old. So it's very, very exciting. We launched GTX 660 just about 3 years ago. So it's time.
3 years ago.
Just about, in March.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And the 760 is about 18 months ago.
18 months ago, yeah. So it's very cool. It's time for an upgrade, and GTX 960 is actually the right card. Okay. The first most important thing about it is it's got amazing performance. So I like to show this one, which is 1080p gaming at 60 frames per second. Now that'll vary, right, depending on your game. And this is comparing GTX 660 to 960. GTX 660 for that collection of games at 19:10 got around 45 frames per second. Now with 960, that'll go up to 60 frames a second. But it's important when I show this, and I've told other reviewers this, we do count MFAA. So some of these games support MFAA, and of course, that's the way you're going to want to run it if it supports. MFAA gives you about the same quality as MSAA, and it runs a lot faster. So you're going to get, your results are going to vary.
Yeah, in our review, in my review, we compared 660 to the 960, but we're not using MFAA by default. We're using the same MSAA options that would be available.
I expect a lot of reviewers to do that, right? Apples to apples.
Yeah.
But the truth is, like if you bought a new car that had a turbocharger and you compared it to an old car that didn't have a turbocharger, you would not disable the turbocharger in your review, right?
Well,
you would not, because in fact it has a turbocharger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what's happening is people have to get more comfortable with it. We have to make it easier for people to really evaluate MFAA compared to non-MFAA, and we need to be a little bit more transparent about how to do those comparisons.
Yeah.
I think right now the only way to really compare the two directly is to do hardware capture and look at it frame by frame. That's a lot of work.
Can't use fraps.
You can't use fraps, but I have some good news on that. We are enhancing shadow play so that it does correctly capture MFAA.
Okay.
So effectively, if you use shadow play, it's not quite out yet, but it will be out very soon.
Okay.
Shadow play will actually record MFA, and you can kind of then compare.
DSR as well?
DSR as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So
when you take a screenshot, you don't capture a 4K screenshot instead of
well,
1080p?
now wait a second. On DSR, if you have a super high, I believe you're going to get the correct answer. Let me double check.
Okay.
But I
because
believe
if you use fraps, that's what happens.
Yeah.
If
Fraps
you're running
gets it.
4K down sample to 1080p, because where fraps is in the line, it's capturing the 4K image prior to the downsample.
Yes, so I believe that what we're doing with shadow play for DSR is that it's going to capture post downsample.
Should.
Yeah, I think so.
No, but I mean, I don't think very many people want to record 4K video.
No.
At this point yet.
No.
So.
But I will double check on that.
You should.
So if somebody in the chat room wants to check that, just run and see what you get. I think you're going to get a 1080p capture.
Okay.
Actually, I'm certain that you're going to get a 1080p capture.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go.
Change his mind all of a sudden.
Yep. I remembered something. Now, the other thing you get with Maxwell is 2x power efficiency. So Maxwell GTX 960 is 120 watts. GTX 660 is 140 watts. So the power's coming down, the performance goes up. You multiply those two out, you get approximately 2x. It's like 0.99 or 96 something. But again, this includes my our MFAA results.
Gotcha.
Now, what'd you get when you were running? Were you getting 120 watts or lower?
Significantly lower.
Significantly lower.
I was just going to ask, so would you say the GTX 660 very closely hit that 140 mark fairly regularly?
I would.
Or?
I would, because if you remember back in the day, we were much more power oriented, and the original version of GPU Boost was throttling based on power. So what would actually happen is the cards would get up to that TDP, and then we would lower clocks to keep them at that TDP.
Right.
That meant that most of our cards, or many of our cards, ran right at that TDP. Now, with Maxwell, of course, we're using GPU Boost 2, which is temperature-based. And the good news is about Maxwell being so efficient, we never get hot, so we pretty much stay at our max clock all the time.
Yeah.
And the power never really gets to 120, so we're not capping based on power.
So I'll save some of my questions about that once we get through some of the information or demos, but that has very much been the case, right? So, we've got our GPU temperature target at 80C, and I have seen no card hit 80C.
Never.
Right?
Never.
But I still hit a limit on overclock.
Yes.
Right? It still crashes before I get to 80C.
Yes.
Right.
And,
so what am I seeing?
What is going on there? So what you're seeing is what people would expect when you're not power or temperature constrained, you still can't run infinitely fast, right? There's a limit. There's a limit to how fast you can run. Yeah. And the question is, why is that? Well, when you're overclocking, there's logic gates, and logic gates are basically going to take some delay, and they're going to get faster and faster and faster as you raise the voltage. But even that kind of tails off after a while.
Yeah.
So as the voltage ramps up, at some point the information can't get from the register that's holding the information to the register that has to take the information, and that's when you fail, right? And it's just because it's, logic gates take time to transition, and even though there's no power or temperature limit, the natural design will fail. That's actually, if you think about it, that's exactly what you'd like to see, because now you're actually not gated by any other factor of the design. Sure. It's strictly...
So in theory, in another design, if you were to take a GM206 GPU and specifically tune it for higher clocks, right, and not be overly concerned about power or temperature, then you could.
You could push it up. Now, what we could have done is, since there's no power or temperature problem, we could have kept squeezing on that design, right, and made it get a little bit bigger.
Right.
But Maxwell GM206 is optimized to hit this price point, so it's kind of like a perfect balance of delivering great performance at a good cost.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the big thing about Maxwell. You're going to get very low power. And great power efficiency.
All right.
So it's also overclockers. We've already alluded to this gently. I guess what we're going to do is all the demos at the end. We're going to try to mix them in. That's a little too complicated. So overclocker's dream, which means that on the core clock, you can raise it. In this chart, I say that's about 1,300, 1,500. That's like 150 or so, maybe 200. And the little blur here means that your results are going to vary.
Sure.
There is no max overclocking spec per se. It's just there's a lot of headroom in this distribution. And you can already see that a lot of the AICs, a lot of our board partners, are shipping overclocking overclock SKUs. So Maxwell is going to overclock great. A new thing most people are not expecting is the memory is actually really, really overclockable. So, we see between 300 and 400 megahertz, up to 500 megahertz overclockable on that interface. So you get great results when you're overclocking, and that's fun for everybody. Did you try to overclock?
We did.
Did you do memory and core?
You should really read my review.
I just got here. You posted. When did you post it?
Well, probably at 9 a.m.
9 a.m. this morning. Where was I? I was in a car.
Probably in bed.
I was in a car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did do overclocking. We were able to hit a sustained clock of, I think I hit 1498.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay.
So, and that was with the card that's actually running in our demo system over there. That particular Asus.
And did you try memory?
I did not try memory.
Okay, that's
one
one
thing.
thing.
Time last night.
So I want to tell everybody, if you're going to overclock your card, overclock memory as well, because obviously in this particular case, you do see cases where you're bandwidth constrained on the memory. So go ahead and overclock that, and you'll get a pretty good delivered performance benefit. So that's an important part. Okay, and that brings us to MFAA. I already told you about this. It's extended. It now works with any game that's DX10 or DX11 that has MFAA support. Minus, I think right now we have about 3 games on the blacklist.
3 games on the list.
So that means
DX9, is that something you guys are concerned about at this point?
Yes, absolutely. So it's just, since DX9 has a different path in the driver, it takes a different filter to kind of put it all together.
Okay.
So we're working on DX9 as well, and we'll see that pretty soon. So
Gotcha.
At the end of the day, there's limited resources, and it takes time to do stuff. So
let me ask you this. So
bring it.
Any game that supports MSAA,
yes,
which I think years ago would have been pretty much
every game. Yep.
But now, as we look today, there are quite a few games that don't. They're using their own internal methods for anti-aliasing. Yep. I'm trying to think which games on our list that did not do it, like Metro Last Light.
Has no MSAA.
Right. So what can you do for that? MFAA doesn't apply to it, correct? Is there anything you can do like that for those games?
Yes. And there is, but I don't want to announce a new technology until it's ready. But let's just say that I saw exactly what you saw.
Okay.
Or we saw exactly what you saw. There are games that don't have MSAA, so what can you do?
Right.
So you can use the same technique basically, but it takes you got to think through it, right? So we're working on some stuff.
It's different because it's the game engine is supposedly handling all that internally.
Yeah, well, game engines, if they're not doing MSAA, what they're probably doing is some kind of spatial filter.
Okay.
Right, and there's lots of different variations of spatial filters. And what the spatial filter, that means that you're gonna look at the picture that's rendered basically, and you're going to try to adjust it to improve it, right?
Okay.
So there's techniques that you can do to support that without disrupting it, but it takes a little bit of work. Okay. All that is a complicated way of saying yes.
All right, fair enough.
All right. So this is the way you're going to get this new MFA stuff. We talked about GeForce Experience being extended, and this is kind of a cool thing. Now there's a section of options. The way this thing works is all your games are here, they get scanned, and then we're going to list all the game options and what we think it should be set to. And now there's
Use the mouse to point.
I'm sorry. Okay, so all the game settings, and now there's a new line here that says NVIDIA. And what that means is everything below that line are NVIDIA options that we're going to be setting by default. So in the first example right here, NVIDIA multi-frame sampled anti-aliasing, now that's going to be set on by default if you click Optimize for games that support it. So in this case, we will lower the MSAA level to 2x, and we'll turn on MFAA, and you're going to get higher performance at roughly the same quality.
Okay.
So I think that's pretty cool.
Now, is this only shows one option, right?
Yes.
Is that something that's going to...
I would expect that to grow over time, right? Because this is actually kind of a natural place to do options for a game, right? When you're looking at the optimal settings for a game, it shouldn't just be the game settings. It should be the entire gamut of settings.
You're not telling me control panels are outdated, are you?
Control panels are very, very good. They're important. You need to control. But at some point, it does make more sense to me to have controls for games all in one place.
Yeah, so you're kind of looking at individual profiles.
Yes.
When you get into this section, if you're looking at NVIDIA settings.
Yeah, and to me, this is...
You can group it with the in-game settings.
Exactly. And by the way, the in-game settings sometimes are sort of conflicting with NVIDIA settings. So having that entire data set as a sort of one record makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. Every time we add an entry, of course, it explodes our testing by a little bit. So we're not going to move every setting into here because every setting we move into, there's like real money. So instead, it's going to be growing over time as things that are relevant get invented. Hopefully we'll be continuing to invent shit.
Keep doing it.
Yeah, there we go. All right, so this is another one showing you I'm sorry, this is showing you DSR.
Right.
So when we say perfect for MOBA, I don't know if this is showing up on the stream because it's a little chunky, but this side.
We got good quality streams here.
Do you really?
Don't worry about
Very
it.
nice. Yeah. Well, this guy's showing you GTX 660 running 8x MFAA, and if you look closely at this guy, you'll see that there's still some edge problems on the bottom, and there's kind of edge problems coming down here, and it's a little blurry. It's because basically you're not able to sample the textures at a high enough rate to give you a good image. On the right-hand side, we're using DSR at 4K, so effectively you're getting a much better image quality. I think this is a League of Legends picture, and you can tell that the character's much better, and that's the benefit of DSR. So 960 has tremendous headroom for League of Legends and for things like Dota, so go ahead and turn it on, right?
Yeah, it's not something for most other games, though.
Well, it's not for legal. It's not for like Metro.
You need to have a lot of headroom.
Yes.
I mean, for 980 it makes sense. There's a whole, like if you're on a 1080p screen, you've got more GPU horsepower than you need for almost all cases.
Yep.
So
turn it on
that feature and do
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
For 960, that's really kind of targeted at 1080p.
Absolutely. So in this case, though, League of Legends, Dota, any MOBA game, that's perfect technology. And we say, 960 is designed for MOBA because you can use all the features, you can use DSR, you can use MFAA, and you get a great experience.
Okay.
Yeah. So I love that. So this is another amazing part about 960. You already know we're very low power, but when you run a MOBA, you're only consuming, say, 20% or 30% of 960. And that means that we can play those games, around 30 watts. I know depending on your game, you got to have VSync on. This is League of Legends, and League of Legends is around 30 watts. I think Dota was running like 35 watts.
Yep.
So that means that your fans are not going to turn on a lot of the time.
So you're essentially frame rate limiting by enabling VSync.
Exactly.
And thus, the GPU clocks down enough that it can use significantly lower power. But it's not clocking, like the GPU clock doesn't go down to 200 or something
No,
like
but
that.
but just like GPU boost, if the utilization is very low, we'll go to very low clocks, and then when we detect the utilization coming up again, we'll pump up the clocks automatically. So we're basically saying at some point, you don't need the performance that the GPU can generate, so lower the clocks and save the power.
Okay. And I think we'll attempt to demo that.
We are. We're going to do all these
after
demos.
After we're done. So between the little bit of slides, we'll talk a little bit about the tech side of things, and then we'll give away a couple cards, and we'll do some demos, give away some cards, and we'll go that way.
Perfect. Specs are pretty simple. It is 1024 CUDA cores, so it's basically half the number of CUDA cores is 980. Base clock's 1127, boost clock's 1178. I think by now everybody knows about our specs for base and boost. GPU boost, the base clock you will not go under in pretty much any condition other than a seriously thermally throttled state, which I still have not really seen other than benchmarking, like Firmark, something like that.
Right.
Boost clock 1178 is our typical clock. It's a typical clock and kind of a nominal chassis. If you're using it, most games are not going to run that slow. Most games are going to run quite a bit faster than 1178. I think you were seeing clocks like 1300 or so before overclocking.
So we didn't have any actual reference designs. Everything
They're all
was
overclocked?
All overclocked.
Oh, wow.
Every card we've gotten in.
Is that right?
We have 13 GTX 960.
Woo!
Every single one of them has been overclocked.
Is that right?
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, that does kind of make me think that GTX 960 is a super overclockable card.
Well, I saw a SKU breakdown from all of the partners, right?
Oh, yeah.
Of like
how many?
What's the ratio?
What did you
reference?
see?
It was like 8-to-1.
Overclocked to stock. Yeah.
Now, varying degrees, EVGA, for example, has 3 or 4 models, and they will go up.
Yeah.
FTW being the top one, SC being the first one, I guess. But none of them were really running at reference.
I mean, it is true that GTX 960 is a very large number of chips that we're making.
Right.
That means there's a distribution of fast and slow.
Sure.
And so what it means is that these guys are getting very, very good at helping end users, get the benefits of that spread.
Right.
So you don't actually
But
have
there has to be some portion of those chips that can only really do reference speeds, right?
Well, you would think.
Because otherwise, would you not just bump up those reference
That's
speeds?
come up a couple times. We're actually leaving more on the table with 960 than we normally do. And it means that 960 is sort of by design going to be very overclockable. And
what's the purpose of that? For you guys,
yeah.
I mean, wouldn't it be beneficial to be able to have a higher reference clock that then
true.
You're more competitive?
It's true.
You're more aggressive against the competition?
At the end of the day, we can continue to sort of slice things finer and finer and finer. And if we had more and more time, we probably would continue to optimize it and push clocks up. But it's sort of at the right performance right now, and we're leaving some stuff for end users to take advantage of, and the time's now for the chip, right? So at some point you have to kind of say, chips coming out. It's going to be
F it,
awesome.
ship
Here we go. But it's not like a bad thing, right? It's a good thing. So I actually am very excited that end users, partners, everybody else is going to get lots of overclockability.
Okay.
At the end of the day, is that better or worse for NVIDIA? I think it's good because it sort of builds our relationship with our customers. People appreciate they get more than they're paying for. So why not?
Okay.
This is new for us. So physical memory speed, meaning the link that you get stock, is 7 gigabits. That's 7 gigabits per second. We invented a new name, effective memory speed, of 9.3 gigabits per second. And Ken's laughing at me.
You invented it?
Yeah, we were trying to figure out, this is not a made up thing, right? We're trying to figure out, okay, we've got better encryption. Think turbocharger, okay? Better ways of compressing the data that's going over the link. So the delivered bandwidth of that link is actually 9.3 gigabits per second multiplied by 128. That's what you will typically see moving back and forth on that link. Because if you're going to compare Kepler...
But if you put this car on a dyno,
what's a dyno?
See? It measures horsepower.
Okay.
Right? If you measure a car with a turbo and without a turbo,
yes,
those two metrics are identically comparable.
Yes, and I would say that this on a dyno would be this number, not this number. Because let's say, for example, that we had a benchmark that was a memory bandwidth benchmark. And let's call Kepler 1. Okay, if Kepler was 1, then Maxwell would on that dyno read, or let's say Kepler was 7, Maxwell will read 9.3. And it's because the data is being compressed as it's moving across the link, right? It's a simple concept.
But the link is still the same speed.
The link is the same speed.
Okay.
Right, but the usefulness of the link is now faster. That's why we can actually have a smaller interface and still get great performance. People are looking at 960 right now going, gosh, it's 120-bit interface, but you guys are having great performance. What?
Right.
And it's because of the way we're using the interface.
Okay.
So not counting that, I can understand why you're not counting this as the spec, but this spec is really not comparable to the old spec.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you get it?
I understand it.
You don't like
we
it.
We don't necessarily agree on this point.
Yes.
Because that you could have said that from Kepler to Fermi.
Right.
Right. You could have done that. You could have had an effective speed for Kepler.
We could
and then what would have happened here?
It would have been relative.
This would have been higher than.
Well, it depends on what our base is. So this whole spec is based on 660. So you can say that this is a relative spec based to Kepler. But
I think that is a useful metric, but I don't think it should be the only metric.
No, that's why when we did our press briefings, you guys all said, well, don't tell me this without telling me this.
Correct.
Right, this makes it very transparent what we're doing, but the actual most useful number is this one, not this one. Just saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying. Okay. As we come down, you can see a ridiculously low power manifests itself as 1 6-pin. Of course, AICs, some of our board partners are going to build bigger boards, but the truth is I have not yet seen a normal application running at 120 watts. Maybe
how close were you to getting this card with no PCI power connector?
Not quite there. Not quite there.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, PCIe is like 60, right?
70.
65, right? So we're going to be above that. Many times.
Okay.
It does have all the outputs you want. A lot of people were looking for HDMI 2.0, dual link DVI, and 3 DP 1.2.
Same output configuration as 980.
Same output as 980.
Okay.
So it's a very cool card. It's actually got a simple summary. So it is 2x the efficiency of our prior generation, right? You're going to get higher performance, lower power, or some combination of that. You're going to get 19 by 10 gaming at 60 hertz with MFAA built for overclocking, right? So you get a great performance. You can tweak it up. We'll show you how easy, by the way, it is to tweak these games today. So very, very simple. And lastly, perfect for MOBA. So if you're League of Legends or Dota, obviously, you can use this card. You can get max frame rate at 60 frames a second and a great experience.
Okay.
What do you think?
I like the card a lot. So
yep.
You don't have anything competitive-wise in your slides.
No,
right?
I don't.
So what? Let me ask you this then.
Yes.
So people, if you're on the live page, there's a link to our review right underneath the video.
Yeah.
Which you should go read. Obviously, if you're here,
should we pull anything up there? Or you
no,
okay.
It's fine.
Okay.
You should go read that review. It has tons of information. We compare the 960 to the 760 to the 660 to the Radeon R9 285, the Radeon R9 280. We look at MFAA performance. We look at power efficiency.
You did MFAA performance. Good job.
I did.
I didn't know
we
that.
did image quality testing.
And how did it say?
It went like Crysis 3 worked fantastic. Right? And
Yep.
a dramatic improvement in a game that definitely needs it because it is so
right, because
GPU
you can't play that with
dependent.
4X MSA.
You cannot. It's really, really hard to do, even on larger cards, right? But you did not, the GTX 960 did not win in performance compared to the 280 and 285.
Okay.
It doesn't. Not when the 980 launched, it was faster. When the 970 launched, it was faster than its price competitive parts. When the 960 launched today, it is not necessarily faster than its price competitive parts.
Right.
What's the reasoning?
The way to think about it, first of all, of course, your results are going to vary.
Sure.
I would say read across a lot of different review sites. Not that anybody should ever read anything other than
Nothing
PC
but
perspective.
PC perspective, right.
But you can see that 960 has a wide variety of wins and losses versus other cards. And I like to think about it, I think it's accurate to say, it's going to trade blows. So if you look at some other reviews, they're going to show
GTX 960 wins Battlefield 4 in our testing.
Yep.
It ties in a couple and it loses in a couple.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of a good way to think about it. On a raw performance basis, it should basically be trading blows at the same price point.
Okay.
Now, what's cool about 960 though is that we're trading blows on a performance-based performance point at a much lower power, and you get all the benefits of Maxwell. So if you look at it as a product, I feel like it's a home run. I mean, it's running at most of the time at like 70 watts instead of a lot higher, and you're getting you don't have to worry about your electricity bill. You don't have to worry about your neighbors complaining about noise. I mean, all those good things, except if it's in Canada. And I know there's some guys in Canada that are using these cards, in which case,
heaters.
Yeah, maybe the red ones are better. Yeah,
I will say that the power efficiency story was an incredibly impactful part of the 980, 970 launch.
Yep.
And the 750 Ti launch, for that matter. Don't forget, 750 Ti was a Maxwell part. It was 107.
Oh my God, that part's great too.
But it is almost more impressive here because if you look at, say, for example, again, the 960 is a 128-bit memory bus, has performance level of 1, right? Normalized. But in our testing, it's using 70 to 80 watts of power in something like Metro Last Light.
Yep.
The Radeon R9 280, which is an older part based on Tahiti. It's been out for several years, kind of revised. It has a 384-bit memory bus, 3 gigs of memory, but it's drawing over 240 watts.
Is that right?
Right, and it's about the same performance.
Wow.
And then the R9 285, based on Tonga, is a much more efficient GPU, but even it was using between 190 and 200 watts. So it's talking about 100 to 120 watt
less
power consumption difference.
Yeah.
Measured at the card.
Yeah.
And
I saw your measurements. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So
is that brand new?
It's just first time we've used it is for this story.
Wow.
The ability to measure power consumption at the card as opposed to
I
at the
would say
system
if
level.
you guys have not read that section of the review, go read that. It's actually really.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole review is great. I'm
you.
sure.
Yeah.
What I've been told.
Yeah.
But
so power efficiency wise, it's not even close.
yeah.
But do you think that is a compelling enough? So if you look at not just power efficiency, but the features that you guys offer, is that enough to counter a 5% performance deficit or whatever it is?
What do you think? I think.
Well, obviously, I know what you think.
I think yes. I'm actually certain yes. Okay. Because when you think about Maxwell, it's brand new. It's optimized for today's games, right? You're going to see great performance, but at this point, you're also going to get the NVIDIA drivers. You're going to get GeForce Experience. You get MFAA and DSR, and also whatever new technologies that we're going to invent are going to come, right? So I think by now people have gotten the idea that we are constantly adding capabilities to our GPUs. We are constantly working with new games. Our drivers are on time. So, if we're trading blows at performance price parity, then I feel like we're offering a better solution. Okay. That's what my belief is. Okay. I think you'll tell me.
They'll tell you whether or not they buy the product.
That's right.
Right? I mean, at the end of the day, that will...
Well, at the high end, at 980, 970, you saw my numbers for how many we sold on 980, 970. That means somebody's liking something.
Indeed. 1 million is a significant amount.
It is.
In that time span. That is launched through what time period?
That was before we went on, that's I think early January.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen this question many times. 4 gigabyte variants of 960. Are they possible with this memory interface?
Not right now.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Yeah. So 2 gigabytes.
2 gig is where we are
there.
right now on 960. Yeah.
Okay.
Are these questions that are counting?
No. These are questions. There's a bunch of questions.
Okay.
I'm trying to get to them.
Okay.
Only two-way SLI is supported.
Yes,
right?
two-way SLI. So do we want to ask a question for a prize yet?
So I think we do. I have one. Ken, do you have one in particular?
Let's do one. For this.
Is it a good one?
We're going to start off with an EVGA SSC 960.
We're not going to hold up every individual price because they're all, if we look at the system over there, they're all kind of stacked over there. But we will make a note of
which card
you won. And then I'm trying to determine if I'm going to open up all these cards and test them for you.
I think we should. I think you should do that article. I really do.
Okay.
Yeah, well, actually, we should check with the vendor, see if they're okay, because they did not send these in to get opened up.
All right, we'll see.
But
and I think since they're getting free hardware, the people,
if you actually
if I
did that,
plugged it
I would not be offended.
you'd probably think it's worth more.
I would.
Right.
Put a little sticky in there. Like the idea was
Pre-overclocked too.
So Ryan Shrout verified this card in his tench batch with these settings on precision or whatever. Right. I think it'd be
interesting because not many people have 13
No.
of a single card to kind of test this up. Anyway,
at all at launch day.
So we're going to give away one of the EVGA GeForce GTX SSCs for this particular question.
If it's good.
If it's good, yeah.
If it's no good,
If it's
then
no good,
you
we'll
get
figure it out
absolutely
later.
nothing, right?
What do you got for us, Ken?
Nothing. Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Nothing.
Okay.
There's
It's
nothing on
blank.
there. There we go.
Where does Jensen buy his jackets?
Wow. Do you think that is a good question?
I don't think it's a graphics card.
I don't think that's
It's a good question.
It's a good question. And since we put it up,
Yeah.
I mean, should we say it's a good question? I mean, we both just did say a good question.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I don't know
You
the
said
answer
funny.
to that.
You did say funny
Yeah.
at one
You
point,
know what?
right?
I love his jackets. I don't know
Write
the
that
answer
down.
to that. I don't know the answer. Ken, good one for you. So that is SSC GTX 960. Congratulations on the Jensen jacket question. Unfortunately, I do not have that data.
What was that person's Twitter name?
Jensen, if you are watching and you choose to post in the comments or Twitter, I don't know.
Yeah, we'd like to know. Where do you
right.
buy those jackets?
I don't know. They're nice.
He buys his jackets at places I can't afford to shop.
Maybe.
Probably.
Maybe.
All right,
You'd be surprised.
Do you have
Jensen?
Do you have another one, Ken? Yeah. Never. Okay. This
All right, here we go.
This will be for another EVGA.
This
SSC.
is the second, and we have how
we
many?
can use the same box. We have four.
Okay. We have four of those?
We have four of these.
Joe and Jacob, thank you.
What will there be support, or when will there be a support for HEVC H.264 hardware decoding?
H.264 hardware.
H.265.
H.265. So we have no announcement for H.265 hardware decoding right now, right?
No? None?
Well, I'm pretty sure it's not in this one, right?
Okay.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Actually,
that's why it was a question.
Great question. You know what? I'm going to double check on that, but I'm pretty sure it's not in this one.
Okay. I think
Yeah.
if it was,
we would have told you.
Probably would have been.
Yeah,
told
we
about
would
it
have told you. I'm like 99% sure.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I can't give you an answer that's looking forward beyond these products, but it's a great question. H.265 is very important, and we're definitely going to support it.
All right, let's do. I have one. I think I had one queued up here as well. We're going to give away. This person will win the same card we reviewed.
Which one?
The Asus GTX 960 Strix.
Nice.
Which is this one here.
Nice.
Strix, by the way, is a genus of owl, as we learned.
We learned that earlier. If you weren't on the pre-show.
Right. Yeah.
By the way, this looks really cool. It's got the double fans. I think this one has double fans too. Yep.
Yep.
And heat
they're all
pipes.
double
Yeah.
fans.
Very nice.
A very, very interesting graphics card. Yeah, it's the one in our test system there. So that question will be, as I switch back here.
Perfect. Who is it from?
Let's see. Cranky asks.
Congratulations, Cranky.
This was in the comments on the page, by the way. Cranky asks, he's bought many a card in the X60 series of GPUs.
Nice.
Always the best fit regards to price, especially for 1080p gaming. So his question is, are these targeted specifically at the most common monitor specification at the time? Is that part of the design? Was the 960, was it put forth in design, we want to build the best 1080p card, or was it,
we want to build
we're
the
going
best
to build a card, and then what resolution does it happen to match up with?
Yeah, I think it's kind of both, right? The way to think about it is this chip was built with a cost target in mind, right? So sort of from the first
cost target.
Yeah.
Okay.
So from the very first kind of thinking, we have product segments, right? And the product segments have the high end, the mid range, and the low end. And we know that the middle has a cost constraint that's different from the bottom. So I would say that the primary thing that defines the 60 class is that sweet spot price target. Now within that
200 to 250.
Yeah, like, I would call it 190 to 220 to 230, something there.
Okay.
And within that price target, obviously 19 by 10 is the most common monitor. So then we're going to optimize for that resolution. So that means the cost of the frame buffer comes down a little bit. The cost, the memory bandwidth gets shortened a little bit because we can bring in the cost to hit this price target.
Okay.
So yes, it's a great question, and I would say what defines this card is not just great performance, but it's also at a great price.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and go into our first demo.
All right.
So what do you want to do?
I'm going to get out of here, and we're going to bring up Far Cry 4, which is down here, and I'm going to relaunch Fraps. So where's Fraps?
Yeah.
So I got to come here.
Yeah, just hit start and do. grayouts.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, and then Far Cry 4, which is right there.
Yep.
So if everything works.
Everything works.
If
If
everything works.
Everything should work. So now you should be able to see, we'll be able to show you this. Yeah, launch game.
Sorry,
and
guys.
then we also have on screen, we're using Precision X in this case. It's just the application that
Yep.
you had pre-tested and used before. So we'll be able to show you the clocks and all that kind of stuff in real time.
As we go to Far Cry 4.
And we're going to stall a little bit because Far Cry is loading.
Right, now we were going to dance.
It's a little lengthy.
Was the plan.
Hold on, I got one for this.
Oh, no,
You
you got a question for us for while we... He thought he had one.
You have a question. All right, here we go.
All right. Will Tom bring me back some Cincinnati chili envelopes?
It's from B-Burke NVIDIA.
I don't think he meant envelopes. I don't think he meant packets.
So
packets, little packets of chili. You can buy those in the airport.
Okay, Brian, I will. Of course, he does not win.
No, Brian doesn't win.
Yeah, Brian does not win, but that's Cincinnati chili, though.
It's good.
That is good stuff.
I know.
Yeah, it's not real. I don't know if I'd call it chili. It's more like a sauce.
It's chili sauce.
It's a chili sauce.
If you buy the off-brand at the grocery store, it is often called chili sauce.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate it. You sent me some a while back. It's very, very good, and it's best on a hot dog, I think.
Well, you tell Burke that you don't live where he lives, so him bringing you packets.
Well, no.
chili.
I'm going to Texas next.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
so
all right, well, that's acceptable.
Brian, I hope you're going to go to PAX. By the way, if you are on the stream and you're in Texas,
that is next
I'm going to
week.
PAX South, and we're going to give away a ton of stuff.
More than 10?
I don't know what but it's. I mean, I saw the list, and it's like a list of stuff. Yo, big. It's
Let's
huge.
load this game up.
It's huge.
All right, that was a good question. Good timing on that one.
Good job, Ken.
He doesn't have to bring it to you, Brian. I can send you some packets. You like the packets more than the cans? Let me know. Hit me up on Twitter, bro.
Hit me up on Twitter.
Hashtag chili
Hashtag Haley. Yeah. Nice. All right, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you the settings, and we're going to start the game stock, sort of like not overclocked with 4x MSAA.
Okay.
And 4x MSAA is the way a lot of guys play this game, so that'll be a good indicator of performance. Let me go ahead and get that set up. Where am I? Okay, video.
So let's show them the settings, too.
Okay, so graphics settings is, we're high, basically. The only difference is 4x MSAA, okay? And we're going to go outside. And I'm going to go to a place which is going to get us, like 40 frames a second or so. Let's go maybe right around here. Okay, so I'm going to try not to move so that you can see, okay, 40 is the baseline. We got the flag flying around. So right off the get-go, can we come over to this other screen? Oh, man.
Move the mouse to the other direction. Nope, the other way.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, there we go. So let's, Ken, are we showing this? Yeah, we are. All right, so what Precision is telling you is our current clock is 1.4 gigahertz, which is already well over our sort of our boost spec. So you already know you're getting a fast clock. The memory is running at 3.6 already, which is actually pretty fast. So we're getting a nice overclock right out of the box because this is an overclock.
This is the ASUS Strix card. It is. Those are the settings of it run out of the box. I think it sets the base clock, typical boost clock, rather the 1317.
Wow.
And memory at 7200.
All right, very cool. I didn't know that. All right, so let's come back over to the game, and I'm going to try not to
click into the game. Right.
Okay, we're at 40. 40, okay. So now the first thing I mentioned is MFAA works with 960, and it's going to be enabled by GeForce Experience. So when you get GeForce Experience, you just click Optimize, the game will get set up correctly. But we're not going to do that today. We're going to do it by hand with an overlay hotkey that I have special made for this.
Not something that we'll have access to.
No, this is just for now. Now there is a question about maybe we ought to make it available for people that want to do MFAA reviews, because you can kind of look at it, you can switch in and out, same scene, it makes it easier.
Yep.
So we might do that. But right now, this is just a NVIDIA special. And the way we get MFAA set is you come down to graphics settings. Instead of 4x, we're going to come to 2x. Because the way MFAA works is you use 2x MSAA, and then you turn on the filter and the multi-sample anti-aliasing. So what's happened is MFAA is now on. I've got these little overlays to tell me that it's on. And we went from about 40 frames a second up to about 50 frames a second. Okay. Now, I don't want to move it around because we'll change the scene, but if you were able to look closely, all the edges are basically the same experience as 4x MSAA. Okay. And it's a great technology that works when you're moving. It works, I mean, it's just sort of like, eventually this is the way it's going to be done.
So let me ask you about that part, is the moving part. The way the algorithm works, it's temporal, which means that it takes into account previous
Yes.
frames
It is also spatial.
and spatial, right? So is the effect lessened during motion? Is the quality slightly lessened during motion? It's not a static thing, it's kind of
Right.
a variable quality
Right.
that you get.
So it's a pretty complicated question, but let me start by this. When you're stable, it works best because what we're
It's
going to do.
basically identical to 4X.
It's basically identical to 4X. It's mathematically identical. Okay. Now, as we move, what our challenge is if you're going to look at every other frame and try to blend, what that actually will do is sometimes put your blending with the wrong information.
Right.
So you only want to blend when the information is close enough so that it's likely that it is the same object.
Okay.
Okay, so that's done with a more complex filter to detect edges and edge motion. And then it also gets more complex because you want to make sure you don't blend if you're going to create a ghosting effect. So we've been working on this, making it better and better and better. And now, as you move around, even crazy fast, it looks pretty good. It's doing edge-based filtering when you're moving around.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would say try it out, do some captures, do some, kind of do some frame by frame, some slow motion videos. I think we're probably going to do some videos for folks so they can download and look at them themselves.
Okay.
Pretty cool. All right, so that is straight out of the box, no overclocking, 50 frames a second on Far Cry 4. Now we're going to overclock. Maybe. Try it again.
Yeah, you were already out of it.
Okay, now I'm out again. Oh, I
Point right here. I know exactly where.
Right there?
Yep.
51. Okay,
There you
now I'm
go.
out, and I'm coming over to the other screen, and here I am. All right. So we mentioned that 960 is pretty overclockable, very overclockable. This one's all running at 1440, already running at 1440. So I'm going to add about, what did we say, about another 100 megahertz? So that's about 8% or so. And, ooh, that was temperature. Sorry. Let me go back to defaults.
Yeah, there
Try
you go.
that. All right, so I'm going to add about 100.
So we're adding 100 megahertz offset to the GPU.
Yeah, so let me take a moment to explain what that means. Some people get a little confused whether this is changing the clock or not. What's actually happening with GPU Boost is there's a curve of voltage and frequency points. And depending on what's limiting us, whether it's voltage or whether it's like temperature or power, we'll move up and down that curve. Right now with 960, we're basically all the way at the end.
Sure.
So by having a frequency offset, we shift up every frequency at every voltage. So what we've done is added 100 megahertz to the frequency that we otherwise would have been at every voltage.
Okay.
So that now pushes us up to probably about 1500, and I'm going to add around 300 megahertz to the memory interface. So that's going to put us up, let's see what that gets us up to. So back over here, now we're up to 1504 on the clock. We're running at 82% of the power, and we're seeing almost a 4 gigahertz memory interface. And if everything is still working, it is. If you come back to this screen, Ken, you'll see what's happening on the game is we're now up to 55, 56 frames a second. So that's like another 10% performance boost that you get from overclockability. So it's a pretty much delightful experience to easily overclock. This runs pretty stable at 100 megahertz on this particular card. Of course, your results are going to vary.
Right, and keep in mind, like the plus 100 offset seems fairly low, but this card is already overclocked by, I think, let's see, 1178 to 1317.
So it's 130.
Yeah, so it already has 130. So in theory, maybe we're looking at somewhere between 2 and 230
Right.
offset from reference speeds.
Right, but let's back up just a second to clarify what it means when somebody has a system overclock. If you buy a card in the market like this Strix and its spec is 1300 boost clock, that's guaranteed.
Yep.
Okay, it seems like it's pre-overclocked, but there's a different meaning when they guarantee it. They're going to run testing, and they're going to make sure that these GPUs run at the specs they give you, and it's going to boost higher than their reference spec. So that's slightly different from what I do for overclocking, which is best effort, right? It may or may not work, it may crash. You've got to have to play with it to get it working. This guy works right out of the box.
Okay.
Okay, so that is overclocking. You want to do a question?
Yeah, let's do
this while we do that.
Let's see.
Okay, I'm going to come back
Ken, do you have one? You have one? Are you confident? This time we're going to give away. Let me. We've got this guy under the box here. Oh.
Okay.
How about an MSI GTX 960 gaming? This is the biggest box.
Okay,
So.
close this.
Oh, we closed it the wrong way.
I close it, yeah.
This is also pre-overclocked out of the box, but I don't know what the specifications are on it.
I don't either.
But we have that, and actually we have 2 of the 100 ME editions.
Do we really?
Which are like
Oh, those are like the
green branded ones.
Nice.
Which
And
I'm
they
sure
are
makes you guys happy.
100 million unit
100 million sales
GPU
celebration.
sales. Wow.
They include a Far Cry 4 mousepad too.
Is that right?
But this time, this person's going to win the gaming card here from MSI. What do you got for us? What are the plans for NVIDIA in regards to FreeSync?
Wow. Okay. So FreeSync is an AMD initiative. First of all, great question. Right.
It is, yeah. Deserving.
You're
of
winning for sure. FreeSync is an AMD initiative that NVIDIA is not part of, and I think it's very unlikely that we're going to support FreeSync monitors. It's very, very unlikely. I never say never,
Okay.
but very, very unlikely.
Sure.
It's trying to certify monitors that are using a DP1.2A optional extensions to do VBlank extensions, basically the way to think about it. And that is a similar technology to what we use for G-Sync. The big difference, of course, is that the G-Sync monitors have our board built inside of it that we can work with and tune.
module.
Yeah, so we think we're always going to be able to get a better experience on the GeForce based or the G-Sync based module based monitors. So our plan has not changed. It's not ambiguous. We're planning to support the G-Sync modules and the G-Sync monitors. We have no plans to support FreeSync, and right now no plans to support DP1.2A optional extensions.
So-
But again, I never say never.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as of now, a monitor that had support for that extension.
Yeah.
Say one existed.
Yep.
Because it was launched at CES.
I've heard of them.
And it's not a G-Sync branded monitor. It's not a FreeSync branded
Right.
monitor. As of now, that's not that's not going to function in a
It'll-
variable refresh mode.
Right. The variable refresh, the optional extension part of DP1.2A. By the way, that communication alone is difficult because there's no spec name for the fact that you support the optional extension, right?
Oh, really?
You can't just be DP1.2A because everything right now
It's
is
DP1.2A plus.
yeah, it's DP1.2A plus this one optional extension.
Yeah.
which is kind of weird. But anyway, no, we would not run that in the variable refresh rate.
I did get an email. GM206 supports H.264 encode decode.
Get out!
Oh.
I did.
206.
Is that right?
25. Oh, I'm sorry. H.265 encode decode.
Who sent you that?
That person?
Is that right, Brian? I did not. How did I miss that?
I don't know.
God, I'm surprised by that.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. So the answer is yes.
Okay.
We rock on H.265 encode decode. Thanks, Brandon.
Yes, that checks to look at the email every once in a while.
God damn it.
All right, so let's go. What's our next
Second demo. All right. So we're back over here now. We mentioned that.
We need to open up.
Want to pull precision again?
You have to
So
start the-
right
hit
in
start.
here.
Hit
Start. Okay.
Hit start and type.
Oh, how about if I actually hit start?
Yeah. There you go. Boom. So
I
bring
have-
that up again.
I have
takes
kind
a
of
couple seconds.
resisted the start button for some
There you
reason.
go. It's our
Okay, we're good.
in the same spots and everything. Look at that.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. All right, we're coming back over here. Now we're going to launch League of Legends in the replay, which I think is in here and stuff. Or
no.
in here.
Nope.
Where?
I think we did actually move it to stuff.
Okay, stuff.
Yeah, move there.
And then-
scroll all the way down.
Didn't we decide on Dota, not League?
Yeah,
Oh, we did,
that's
we did,
Yeah,
we
that's why
did.
it's not there.
Dota.
So open up Steam here. We couldn't get the replay system in League to work, and then just play Dota.
All right, perfect. So what I'm going to show you here is Dota is a MOBA, right? And GTX 960 runs really, really well on MOBA.
Yep.
So maybe, I don't know if we're going to be able to have time to maybe do some, well, yeah, we'll just show you what the power is. We'll play around a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, give me the mouse. I'll
Okay,
drive this
here you
one
go.
since this is
So I will
the
talk,
demo
and maybe
we
you can
used.
come back over here a little bit. Right now we're launching Dota, so we're very low power.
All right, so
Play.
show them settings, I guess, real fast.
Sure, 19 by 10, hopefully. Yeah, 19 by 10, full
10.
screen, everything's up, hopefully, advanced.
Yep, everything's on.
Cool,
No, but we do have VSync on, which is kind of
important.
important for this particular demo.
Yeah, so with VSync on, we're going to limit the frame rate to 60 frames a second.
We're gonna play this training match because this is always as far as I get in Dota.
Are you kidding?
No.
You don't play Dota at all?
No.
Oh,
No, I don't.
what kind of reviewer are you?
One
Busy.
One that doesn't have time to play
You know, I've actually,
hundreds of hours of
as you
Dota.
know, I've been playing a lot of Dota and a lot of League of Legends the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I got to tell you, it's actually pretty cool. All right, so while we're watching that, let's come back over to this screen, Alan. I'm sorry, Ken. And what you'll see is the clock is running at 12:52, and the GPU, where is it? GPU power is at 34%. So that translates roughly to 35 watts right now. And you can see that means your fans are pretty much going to be off on a lot of these AIC cards. Now, obviously we're not doing much here, but even when the battle gets, say really,
doing
really,
a lot.
yeah, you are walking around.
Look,
So
I'm gonna kill this already almost dead guy.
get him, get him. Nice.
He's not already almost dead.
He's got a little work to do. So even in the most intense battles like this one, even when it's like as intense as it gets, we're going to be consuming 35, 33, 34, and I've seen it, come up and down a little bit. But the point is, when you're running a Dota or a League of Legends or anything like this,
StarCraft maybe.
Is
that one of those
well, I would
options?
say StarCraft is going to be a little bit higher than that,
Is it?
but it's
Okay.
but it's not going to be dramatically higher than that because StarCraft is not that heavy. Any of the games that are effectively not really heavy graphically
Yeah.
can run very, very low power, which means your fans are going to be off most of the time.
So let me ask you this: Is this 30 to 35 watt range? Because we tested this game and we got to about 35 watts. Is it a specific? Are there steps to the power? Like you can run at 30 to 35 watts for a while, but if this game was just slightly more intense, could it run at 45 watts stable, static?
Yeah, this game does not get above that number as far as we've been able to do in testing. Now they may make a patch, they may add some new graphics so that it does, but right now 35 watts is about where it's going to be. League of Legends is maxing out around 32 watts. And that's not going to change no matter what you do in the game.
Okay.
But to be clear, this is not a profile. There's no like, is it Dota? Is it League of Legends?
Right.
It's just the design is so power optimized that we can run this low, and that means that the fans can actually be cut off a lot of the time.
Okay.
Very cool.
Well, that's
Dota.
That's
60 frames a second, solid, 19 by 10, 30, 35
everything
watts.
turned up.
Yeah. It's so easy. You are so.
I'm really good at this.
Yeah. All right, let's kill
this
that.
training
That's
session.
compelling.
Oh, okay.
Compelling. All right, so I think I just cut the wrong thing off again.
No.
Oh, they're gonna force you to hit
You gotta Alt F4 so people don't like it. What can I say?
All right, more questions. How many
All right.
cards we got left?
We have 6 cards left based
Okay.
on my math.
All right.
Let me see. I think I had another question here. One of them was about H.265.
Okay.
But now that's been answered. You got one, Ken? Go ahead.
Here we go.
This one is for another EVGA SSC
Nice.
card,
And
by the
would
way.
you call this the Twittosphere?
Twitter sphere?
Yeah. Is it coming from the Twitter sphere?
It is, yes.
All right. let's
This
see.
one is.
Or the
yeah.
Twitterverse.
No, that sounds dumb.
What is the actual? What's the normal saying, Ken? Do you know?
It's just Twitter.
Twitter?
It's coming from
All right. Let's see it.
The question is, if my game runs below or above the refresh rate of a G-Sync monitor, would I get tearing?
No. So that's an excellent question. So the way G-Sync works is any refresh, it never tears. So G-Sync never tears. And that means that if the refresh rate, if the frame rate of the game would have gone above the refresh rate of the monitor, then it will be limited by the refresh rate of the monitor, the max refresh
Sure.
rate. And obviously if it goes lower, it can go all the way down, and we will automatically do a refresh on the monitor to keep it from flickering.
Right.
So G-Sync doesn't have a max that if you go above the max, it starts to tear. We thought that was a bad experience because some games really do have high frame rates. And with those games, G-Sync, still looks good. It looks like V-Sync basically. And you
Right.
don't get all that tearing. Excellent question.
This is an interesting one.
For what? What are we playing for? Johnny,
So this
Johnny,
is
what are we playing for?
an Asus Strix card.
Nice. That would be.
Sorry, Ken, I don't know if I'm overrunning what you've got lined up. So this is for an Asus GTX 960 Strix, the Owl
this
card.
card right here?
That one. Based on the benchmarks around the web, why is the performance of the GTX 960 so close to the 760, whereas the 660 and the 760 had larger differences in performance?
Right. The way to think about it, again, is that our prices and our performances are effectively gauged over time by the market. And this part, obviously, is right competitive right now in the market. It's a great value. It has great performance, and that's what defines our price point, right? So it's not generational from generation to generation. There has to be a massive price gap. Sometimes we can actually just improve the market by lowering the price point. And if you look at where sort of 760 landed, this is coming in below, right? And this will be the trend over time. We're always looking to kind of put products into the market at the right price with the right performance. So saying from generation to generation there needs to be a big change in performance is not always true.
Okay.
And not only that, Maxwell gives you all the great capabilities of things like DSR and MFAA. So it's a nice upgrade. But if you have a 760, and that's one point I think a lot of reviewers have said, hey, can I get a water or something? I'm starting to lose my voice. If you have
Can't have that.
like a Diet Coke, or I lose my voice.
No, losing your voice.
Yeah, I've got a big presentation to do here pretty soon. But anyway, if you have a 760, I would not recommend an upgrade to 960.
Yeah, I think
Right?
that's fair.
Yeah, just like when you had a 780 Ti, we did not recommend an upgrade to 980. Ah, thank you, sir.
We're not sponsored by Coca-Cola.
You are
by
not
the way.
sponsored by
Yeah.
Coca-Cola.
Although I would accept that if they're watching and they want to do that.
Actually, I think that's a good idea because, there's no reason why you have to be just sponsored by electronics companies, right?
I would prefer to not.
Yeah. How about gum? Would you do gum? Blown?
And I'm not a big fan of gum.
Okay.
People chewing gum annoys me.
Does it?
It does.
I didn't know that.
does.
That's awesome. You're going to wish that you have not told me
I
that.
said that out loud. I should not have said that out loud.
All right, so back to the upgrades. 780 Ti to 980, yes or no?
No.
Right. 760 to 960? No.
Right.
680 to 980? Absolutely. 660 to 960?
So
Absolutely.
most people, unless you're that person that's always
Right.
buying the newest best, one generation is usually not enough of a performance gap.
Yeah, and it's not supposed to be, right? Because people don't upgrade their cards that often anyway.
Yeah.
The average upgrade time for somebody in the 660 class or the 960 class is really around 3 years. So the reason we're comparing
That's
to
true.
660 is because that's the right one, right?
How does this is not a question from anyone in particular? How does SLI performance is it affected by the 2 GB limit and the 128-bit memory bus limit?
Well, now we get great scaling on SLI. I don't know. Did you do an SLI?
I did not yet.
Okay, so check
but
it
I
out.
have some cards.
Good. You have lots of cards. So yeah, SLI scale is great. I mean, the 128-bit memory interface is designed and optimized for performance, and it gets there by using the compression algorithms that we built for Maxwell.
Yeah.
And the benefit of that is that we can bring the price points down more aggressively. So everybody knows about how beautiful 970 was, right? The price point that we hit with 970 and now the price point we're hitting with 960, a lot of that is because of these cost optimizations. So if we can do cost optimization and still deliver the performance, it's amazing. People should be blown away, and I certainly am.
I saw this a few times, so I can't accredit to anybody. DSR changes for multi-GPU.
None yet.
Okay.
None
Nothing
yet.
changes in the 960.
None yet,
Nothing
but that is a definite, we're aware. So was that a question that's going to...
No, like I said, I saw it from several people, and I don't remember what it was, but
Okay.
now that we were talking about
So, no
SLI, it kind of came up again.
DSR on SLI right now is not supported globally. We are definitely working on that.
Okay. All right. I have another one here that I think is a really good question. And this will be for... So this person will win. This is from the chat.
Okay.
I happened to catch it early in the
Perfect.
early in the thing.
Perfect.
This is from the chat. This is for an MSI, one of the 100 ME cards.
Do we have one here to show? Oh, we do.
We did, well,
Oh,
if
it's
we
not
show
the
the
ME.
system, you can see the box for it as well.
Is that the ME?
See that one in the top left there? That's in the shot.
Okay.
That's
okay.
100 ME. It's the same. It's the same cooler as the one on the gaming edition
Yeah,
here.
very cool.
But it's branded and has a Far Cry 4 mouse pad in it. So
Nice.
this is a good one. This is FUWARG. We're going to just go with that. FUWARRGH. How does the memory bus width impact power efficiency? Does it? Had you built a 256-bit memory bus into it, or 192, would it have been impossible or less likely or more difficult to get the power efficiency levels that you're at now? Is there some kind of fundamental...
Memory thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so the answer to that is no. It's not a fundamentally memory interface thing. Of course, having a bigger memory interface would have raised power, but and it probably wouldn't have improved performance very much because the memory interface is tuned to the core bandwidth, right?
Okay.
So the memory core, say core performance and memory bandwidth are very well tuned on 960, so adding a lot more memory bandwidth isn't going to change much. So in effect, it would probably bring down the perf per watt a little bit,
Sure.
but it wouldn't be significant. The bulk of perf per watt is inside the die, and how efficient are our shaders running, how efficient is the core of the GPU, honestly, increasing the memory interface would slightly increase the performance and slightly increase the power, but it wouldn't change things significantly.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, and I'm still scrolling through dozens of pages of comments on that news post now.
Is that right?
So if you have one from Twitter,
Are there dozens? Wow.
then we'll go there.
So is this the right way to do it, to win prizes for questions?
I think maybe we do a mix next time.
Okay,
We do some random, we do some
Okay,
questions.
okay.
Because there's some people that just aren't good at questions.
Right.
And also you might have had the same question, but
5 times.
it could have been listed there multiple times.
Right,
So
right.
we'll go ahead and give away the fourth and final EVGA GTX 960 SSC.
Nice.
Again, they
That
deserve
one?
props for sending
Yeah,
us
4.
all this stuff.
4.
Right there. Wow. This question is, are there any plans to implement SLI without bridges, SLI bridges?
Excellent question. So I think I've addressed this a couple times. Who won that, by the way?
It was a Twitter user. That was
Twitter user?
Torrential Tech.
Wow, good name.
That's a good name, yeah.
I think that might actually be a tech person.
Well, then if he's a reviewer, he can't win a card.
Yeah, you can't win if you're a reviewer, you can't win a card.
Sorry, I just decided that.
So you just decide that. All right. So SLI without a bridge. Here's our feeling on that. Excuse me. Right now, the experience that we can deliver through a bridge is better than the experience we can deliver without it. That means that we can deliver smoother frame rates using a bridge, and it's because that's happening right at the display output, and it allows us to make things smoother. Now, I know AMD's not using a bridge anymore, and so they're doing whatever it is that they're doing to make it smooth, even though there's no bridge.
Right.
But right now, our technology is requiring the bridge because effectively that's how we guarantee an even better experience. Now, if there ever comes a time when we can do that without a bridge, it would be better if we didn't have a bridge. You know, it
makes configurations easier.
Yeah.
One less thing to have to worry about in a motherboard box or graphics card box.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's not bad to have a bridge because the bridge is distributed already all over the world, and it does give us a better experience today to have the bridge. But I'm not. We're not married to the bridge. It's really, could we deliver as good an experience without the bridge today? The answer is no. And the reason is because...
Honestly, it's no.
Yeah, the answer is no, because the traffic goes through PCI Express. And by the way, it's not just no for me. It should be no for everybody. And it actually is a little bit no.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's true that memory goes through the PCI Express bus when there's no bridge, and that bus can get conflicted depending on what else is going on in the system. So having a bridge allows us to avoid all of those issues. Now, we're working on technology that may make that better in the future, but it's not there today.
Okay.
Excellent question.
All right. Yeah, this one, somebody asked, how does the GTX 960 know I'm playing a MOBA and turn off the fans? And we just discussed that. It does not.
Doesn't know. It does care. It does care because, you know, we are an empathetic
How does
company.
it know?
It
Because
doesn't
your
know.
GPU is not necessarily spying on you in
No,
that
it doesn't
particular
care.
instance. It might be in other cases.
Yeah, it does care, but it doesn't know.
We have another potential winner anywhere, Ken?
Ken Boy, potential winner. Here we go.
This is from Reality Exit. That says, will we see NVIDIA supporting high bandwidth memory, HBM, or will we see the trend of better compression continue? Maybe both.
So
by the way, that is for the third and final Asus GTX 960 Strix.
Very good question
Graphics
again.
card.
I'm loving the Twitter. I'm loving me the Twitter.
It's nice. It's just nice. It's nice for us to be able to sort and organize it. In that fashion.
And can you meld these into there? That would be even better, right? Where you could kind of.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll talk about that after.
All right, talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a plan for that.
So the answer is maybe both, right?
Okay.
So if you look in some of our next generation architectures that we've described, memory technology is changing and increasing bandwidth over time because obviously the cores are getting more and more powerful, and in the future when the core is very, very powerful, you're going to want more memory bandwidth, and the way to get that is to use new memory technologies.
Yeah.
Now at the same time, it just is a good idea if you can do better encryption across that memory interface. It's always going to be a scarce resource. So, I'm sorry, not better compression, not encryption. So it's always going to be a scarce resource. And maybe someday, we're not doing it now, but there might be other ways to use that interface in the long run that has some imperceptible degradation that is not visible. Right, so I wouldn't do it today, and we would always have a mode if we ever did such a thing.
Yeah.
But if memory bandwidth gets more and more expensive, you know, optimizing performance versus quality might be the right thing to do on that interface in the long run.
Okay. We do have one more video card. I'm scrolling, like there's literally hundreds of posts in here now. This was a huge mistake for me to do it in this way. Like, will 960 allow me to play solitaire at 1080p 60 at max settings?
Yeah,
Probably.
definitely. But that was not for a prize.
It was not for a prize.
Okay.
No.
You gotta be careful.
And some of these questions that have already been answered in the stream, so we're not doing that.
How many cards we got left?
We only have one.
Oh my God.
We only have one MSI.
This is the last card.
Last video card.
It's the MSI MI or?
Yeah, 100 ME. But yes.
Over here.
Yes.
100 ME.
You can steal it if you want. Yeah.
Okay, this is the one.
This is the last card.
The last card.
I like the shine of the box.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. Kind of nice. I like it. And actually, the ID looks very pretty.
It's a lot of green. I figure you might like it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ken, you have a good one? You think one?
Last question.
He looks tentative over there. He's
Now,
like,
here's the thing.
There's a lot of pressure on the last question.
Since this is the last question.
Wait. I may ask you a couple more questions.
Yeah, why don't you ask some questions while he finds one?
Well, a lot of these are, let's see, how does it apply DSR and MFAA at low power usage? We've already talked about all this stuff.
Well, when you turn DSR on with like League of Legends, it seems like the max power I've seen is something like 60 watts.
Yeah.
And you're still at below 50% utilization.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible we would see single slot versions of this card with smaller
yeah.
coolers, right?
I mean, you could imagine that for sure. I haven't seen any because right now, honestly, there's very few applications that need a single slot. The industry has kind of gotten used to
this could be a very good home theater PC.
Oh my God.
Part that can do 1080p because that's what most TVs are. It could essentially be silent or almost nearly silent.
Yep.
Generating less heat, right?
Yep.
So you don't have to worry about a bunch of airflow.
You could
in a
probably
case.
put it. You could probably
Support
put it.
HDMI 2.0, HDCP 2.2,
H.265.
H.265, encode decode. Supports all those things as it turns out.
Yeah. It does, evidently.
So there's that.
Yeah, but you could probably. I think it probably would work if you put it in like a closed receiver thing,
Yeah.
right in your console.
In theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Ken, what do you got?
Now's the time. The final winner.
Alexander Batog, I don't know.
Congratulations,
say
Alex.
that. Will the onset of DX12 offer new SLI rendering modes, like a return of SFR,
Oh my God.
for people with different preferences, kind of like VR SLI?
Yes, that is an excellent question. I'm glad he's going to win a card for that because DX12 does kind of change the way SLI is going to work. Or not really SLI, but the way all multi-GPU rendering would work. And in some cases, it gives the game developer more control. So of course, they can write as complicated a rendering game as they want. I think in the long run, you'll see still AFR, the dominant technology for DX12, and will still support very low touch AFR effectively, where developers can do almost nothing and AFR just works. So that's going to be the way I think most DX12 titles get SLI or get any other multi-GPU technology. But you'll also see some games do more work on multi-GPU, but it'll be done on a per game basis. And in some cases that will use techniques that are similar to SFR. So DX12 is very good. It's a very low level. And if a developer wants to code to that low level interface, then they can do almost anything.
But they have to code to that lower level interface, but a developer could write a dumb engine that is maybe less aware of what the multi-GPU scenario is, and then your driver would still handle the same facilities.
So if a game wrote more traditional, didn't go as low level, which a lot of games won't, then that traditional mode would typically work with our existing SLI infrastructure. And we'd still need to do work. We have a huge team optimizing SLI per game. That's what SLI profiles are all about that get delivered on GeForce Experience.
Sure.
So per game, we're going to look at exactly what's the parallelism that we can extract and then enable that in an SLI profile. And that's not going to change for DX12, although DX12 does open up kind of a different arena of optimization.
Interesting.
Yeah. So great question.
That is the last of our giveaway cards. There's a couple of questions I thought were interesting.
Okay,
in here.
so these are for non-giveaways.
Yeah,
so
sorry,
thank you for your support.
You were one
short.
too late.
One short. Now we're going to see a lot of hate in the chat.
Do you think it would be a good idea for graphics card manufacturers like Asus to release a card with two 960 GPUs on a single card, like we've seen in the past?
So, whether, of course, Asus can do whatever they want, and I
Whatever
actually
they want.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think that.
Let's do it, Asus.
No,
Come
I don't
on.
believe that is actually a good decision though. That particular card.
Really?
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
Well, because there's products
pins?
there's products from NVIDIA that fill that similar performance, right?
Yes, but that's always been the case.
Yeah, and
we've
so
seen like the dual 7600 GTs and stuff like that back in the day.
But I don't really think those have ever been very hugely successful. Because here's the problem, right? The price point of GPUs is always changing, and once you integrate those onto a card, you're done, right? That thing is now up at a higher price point, which is generally now going to find a smaller market, and you're going to lose out on the transitions that's happening on GPUs, right? And very quickly, if there's any change of pricing in the market, yours is going to be notably higher, more expensive. That's always happened.
With those kind of custom, like very specific designs.
Yeah, unless it's custom at the very high end, right? If it's a very high end, like multi GPU, thing that is delivering performance that you can't otherwise get,
right,
that makes more sense to me. But doing a cost, because that would be a cost play. You're trying to take advantage of the fact that the 960s are very cost optimized, and you're going to put two of there trying to hit a higher price performance point. That strategy has not worked out super well.
Okay.
Because it's almost always cheaper to do two cards.
Yes. Yes, clearly.
Right.
Additional engineering time.
Yeah, but not just that. The two cards are going to be moving down the price performance curve, and
more than this one.
More than the top one.
Or more quickly, at least.
Yeah.
Than this one would. Okay.
And that almost always results in these things becoming obsolete. Well, because they're at the wrong price point relative both to the two card solution, and they're also kind of at an odd power kind of SLI versus single at the higher performance level.
Okay.
All right. Do it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I guess that's it. That's it. We're out of demos. We're out of prizes.
Wow.
I guess it's time for everybody to go home.
Go home.
We really do appreciate you guys joining us.
Yes.
It was fun. A big thank you to Asus, MSI, and EVGA.
Thank you so much.
For supplying cards.
Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Tom really appreciated it.
I think I do. I mean, I love it.
You did a good job.
I love it when we get support from our partners and stuff like this, and it helps show that this is a massive product, right? This is not like a small volume launch. We have product in the channel everywhere, and that's no small feat. It's a great product. Partners are excited about it. Huge amounts of overclockability.
Are you going to sell 1 million of these in 3 months?
I would bet. I don't want to talk about volumes on this thing, but this is going to sell plenty.
Okay.
Yeah.
As we close out, I'll give a couple of plugs for us. If you have just come into this event, maybe you came in late and you didn't see the stuff at the beginning, PCPer.com is our website. I posted a link to the review in the chat. There's a link below the video embed to our review of that. Go check it out, read it, leave us some comments in that. Let me know what you think about the review of the product there. There's also a link to, I think, an Amazon landing page should you choose to buy a 960. If you didn't win one, you can still buy it if you choose to after you read the reviews and make your decision.
There should be huge, availability, right?
There was, I don't know,
12 13
or so
variations,
as of a couple hours ago when we started this event. So, and also, if you like this live streaming event, let us know on Twitter, at PCPer or at Ryan Shrout. And then, of course, if you go to PCPer.com/subscribe, it's just a page that asks for your name and your email address, and it's a mailing list that we use only to send you notifications of events like this. So whenever we have live streaming events, we give away prizes, we do live podcasts.
Yeah.
That's all we use that mailing list for. So if you want to sign up for that, if Tom's not on it, I'm going to add it to him right now so that he gets all those notifications.
I want to know.
You want to know?
I want to know when I need to get up.
Yeah. Tom, it starts in an hour. Please wake up.
Actually, I love doing these. I really do because I love getting the questions, right? And we actually spend more time on the questions than we do the presentation.
And I think that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Right? Because your presentation
I know what I'm going to say here, right?
Is information that I have presented in a review, right?
Right.
And so some of the questions are stuff that either I couldn't think of.
Yeah. And I love it because some of them are controversial and some of them are sort of questions technical, and I love, whatever we got.
All right. All right, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. Hopefully we'll be back soon.
I'm sure we will.
Good night, everyone.
See you guys.
Or good afternoon or whatever.
Whenever
it is.